All right. Well, welcome everyone. We're very excited to be here today at the Digital Velocity Summit hosted by AgileThought. And for this session, we are talking about Agile in the enterprise. So we're very excited to uh, dig into this particular topic today. We have a great set of panelists here. We're going to do intros in just a second for those panelists. But before we do, if you have any questions, ask them in the QA feature. Polls in chat and community are disabled, but the QA is enabled during this session. So if you have questions, please feel free to add them in the chat. So uh, for our panelists today, we're going to go through and we really want to hear from you, hear your background. And so we'll just go around the table and we'll start with Jacky.
Hi, yeah, I'm Jacky Chambers de Freitas. Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I have been an Agilist for about the past 12 years. I started out as an Agile practitioner, Scrum Master, product owner, and then I became the manager of those roles, essentially a coach to those roles. I then went on to run an Agile delivery organization, and out of that, some success. I learned a lot too, but out of that success, eventually got into running Agile through the enterprise. And throughout my 12-year career, I've been a consultant for large global companies and small startups. And most recently, I'm working at a company called Fiserv, not Pfizer, not the medical company, it's Fiserv for financial services. But in my 12 years, I've worked both in the hospitality industry, I've worked in the medical field and supply chain solutions. And so, yeah, the past 6 or 7 years has squarely been in the enterprise agility field. So, yeah, I'm happy to be here. Looking forward to getting to chop it up with Stacey and Nirav too. So, thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thanks and welcome, Jacky. All right, Stacey.
Hi, everybody. I'm Stacey Warner. I'm very excited to be here. So thank you, Quincy and AgileThought, for allowing me the opportunity to speak with everybody today. I work for a company for Suddath companies. Been with Suddath for 15 years in a various numerous roles, all primarily within the business side, from operations, customer service, even dabbled in analytics a while. In addition to my current business responsibilities on that side of the house, I also am acting as chief product owner on a large program, embedded within the IT space, and relatively new to my Agile journey, but I look forward to sharing my experience thus far with everybody today.
Awesome. Welcome, Stacey. All right, Nir.
All right, hello everyone. Excited to be part of this awesome topic, Agile in the enterprise, with my co-panelists Jacky and Stacey. Talking about me, I'm a VP of software engineering at Brierly, a globally recognized loyalty leader in loyalty strategy and technology. Little bit about me, definitely multiple years of servant leadership, agilist, and change agent mindset. And with Brierly, currently I'm leading their product development side of the organization. And why I say an awesome topic, I was, I always consider myself be a lucky. I've been through multiple agile transformation across small and large corporations such as Brierly, Dell, EMC, and Sabre Holdings, and definitely, with my co-panel, will be sharing, discussing our experience, and at the same time trying to learn from the other panelists. So thank you for inviting me.
Awesome. Thank you and welcome, Nir. All right, and my co-facilitator and partner in value, Andrea.
Thank you, Quincy. I too am excited to be part of this conversation today. So I'm excited to see where we go in our journey. I'm Andrea Floyd, and I too work at AgileThought. I'm a principal consultant focusing in the area of Agile transformations, enterprise level. as well as scaled agility. And I've just been blessed that I've been in this space for approximately 14 years now. So I've got to work with individual teams and across the entire organization into that new phrase, business agility, and helping to partner with my clients to help them achieve what they're looking for in terms of the outcomes that they need to make their companies relevant and make a shift in the way they work so that they can excel. So I'm excited to be part of the conversation.
All right. Thanks, Andrea, and welcome. So I am Quincy Jordan. I am a director in our Innovate line of service at AgileThought. I, too, just like many of the panelists, have background in the transformation space in many different enterprises across different industries. And so I'm very excited about talking about Agile in enterprise today. I really want to hear from our panelists and hear their stories and hear their input. I'm very excited about that. And so when we're talking about Agile in the enterprise, and we're, if we look at the early days of Agile and we think about, okay, well, this is kind of targeted toward small IT teams to be able to move really, quickly, be nimble, able to pivot quickly, and that served itself well right up to the point that they needed to go outside of the team or they needed to coordinate and align to other parts of the organization. And then oftentimes they would find themselves hitting a brick wall and they would become very frustrated. And some of their progress would impede and not go as well. And so that's causing me to really want to jump in first with Jacky, because you have such good experience across different organizations. You have great experience, the things that you're doing over there at Fiserv now, all of that is great. Can you just share with us how you see Agile being used across the enterprise from your point of view?
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned how, kind of initially Agile was at the team level. And if you even think about the Agile Manifesto, it was about delivering software faster. And, Agile in the enterprise is really about how we deliver value from a business perspective to our clients and customers sooner. Right? Because it's one thing to be able to deliver software quickly. We want to make sure that software or that product that we're delivering actually has value to our end users, actually has an ROI, and is things that these people want to buy and use. And so when I think about bringing Agile up to the enterprise, it's really how do we use Agile and by extension Lean principles across the whole organization, whether it be HR or finance or marketing or a product group, to deliver that value sooner. And I sometimes like to say it's the way we think about using those principles from the very idea at the beginning all the way out to when our clients and customers are consuming, those products or services that we put out there.
Wow. I mean, that's awesome. And it's causing me to think about some of the areas, like you said, that are outside of IT. And now I'm thinking about industries that are outside of IT and what that looks like. And it's making me think about Suddath and the work that you're doing over there, Stacey, at Suddath. And you all are in the moving industry. And it's not the IT industry. However, there's work that has to happen at the team level that still has to align at a program level, that still has to align across the enterprise. What is that looking like for you, Stacey, and how do you see those concepts being used, those agile concepts being used across the enterprise for the areas that it has reached within Suddath?
Well, to answer the first part of that question, on how to how do areas outside the IT space kind of, impact and those teams? We really view it as a partnership. And one of the things that we've had success with, tremendous success with, so far is really embedding those business leaders or somebody from the business in our software development, in our IT teams and our Scrum teams. Somebody like myself, for instance, right, who my background is primarily on the business side, but I'm acting as a product owner on this side of it, and have direct, impact and visibility to everything that occurs over here. And collectively together, right, both business and IT, we're working to deliver that value that Jacky just mentioned, right? Our customer value, and deliver software sooner, right? That's in line with what brings the most value to the business and our customer. But in addition to that, embedding the folks from the business, our CIO would say, we're moving from the sidelines directly into play, right? We're right there in the team. We're moving from sidelines to quarterback, from business to tech to all be one. But in addition to that, in that transformation, in that journey, I think it allows us to really have visibility and insight into some of the agile practices and mindset that occur in the IT space, that allows us to take those concepts and principles and really think about how do they apply to solve complex business problems. And it is that education, right? Without really having that direct involvement with business, personally, I'm not sure I've ever been exposed to that type of mindset or principles. So now, I can take it, I can see it, and on a daily basis, we're faced with business problems that are very complex and multidisciplinary, right? They're cross-functional. They require a team to solve, and a lot of times, not only do they require a team to solve, it also probably has some sort of innovation that's required to solve that problem as well. So it goes back to that loop, right, of embedding business and IT and working together to reach our goals and deliver that value.
Wow, that is awesome, and it's causing me now to go down this road and really start thinking about, you know, automation and DevOps and quality and those things that sometimes may not be considered by the entire enterprise, but they impact the entire enterprise, for sure. And so that has me now looking to Nir to say, well, how do you see that happening within your organization, Nir? How do you see Agile really being used in your organization and the type of impact that it's making at an enterprise level?
Absolutely. So, as Stacey said, right, from a sideline to a quarterback, right, and I think that applies across the enterprise, and that mindset is the key, and how we can have that education from top leadership to the individuals who are actually developing that piece of code to production, right? And that reminds me, the last transformation that we have done, we actually did our kickoff, and the entire company was part of it, right? We were all there, right? We have all the leaders, including our CEO, we're part of that kickoff to make sure that this is not about IT. I know IT has to do heavy lifting, but IT cannot get there if they have the right support from the business and others. And as you call out DevOps, automation, and quality. So we remember our early days of the Agile transformation, where we are educating our business counterparts. What does that mean, right? Because the mindset is, okay, we have a client, and client is asking for XYZ work. Why don't you guys focus on there? And when we say, well, we really have to talk about quality, DevOps, reputation of some of the things, it requires us an effort. So, from our effort, we're gonna carve out some capacity. And their initial thought is, well, no, you cannot do that. But with the education that, look, if we're gonna invest now, with that, our rules were 80-20%, 80% focus on functional requirement, 20% focus on, tech dev, quality, DevOps, automation. How it's going to help you down the road? The same work we are doing for multiple years, right? That is taking maybe 100 hours now. If we invest this now, it's going to take 30 hours down the road, right? So removing that boundary, and again, just repeating again, as you say, bringing those business folks from a sideline to a quarterback, right? They come and look at, when the stand-up happens, and they become part of it, right? So when we go, in front of a client, I have a business person sitting next to me, and I'm sitting as a tech leader next to them. When we talk, we are so aligned. So from the client point of view, you know what? I'm very confident in delivery structure, how things gonna happen, and I think that's as a success, right? And that's what brings by educating business side early in the transformation.
Wow. So there's something that you said there that I think we should pull on a little bit and kind of take us maybe in whatever direction it seems to take us. But you said, Nir, thought leadership to production, how to get things to go from thought leadership to production. And if the leadership isn't educated well enough in this area, how do you do that? How do you help the leadership to go from what I've seen at times before of, I don't want to talk to IT. I don't want to do any of that stuff. Just go build the stuff that I want. Okay, but people aren't mind readers, but that is the expectation sometimes. So at an enterprise level, how are you all seeing, and this is open to the panel, to everyone, how are you seeing educating the leadership so that things can go from thought leadership all the way through production? What are you doing? What are you seeing? How's that happening?
One of the things that I like to do with engaging leadership outside of IT is to figure out what their goals and outcomes are. It never usually starts with a conversation about Agile. I'm using the quotes here. It really starts with a conversation about what is it you're trying to achieve, what keeps you up at night, and what problems are you trying to solve. And we do a lot of sessions about listening and understanding what the pain points are, and then identifying how some of our agile ways of working, some of our lean principles can help them solve those problems. And through that, we then get to bring in other areas of the organization, whether it be IT with a business leader or HR, with a business leader in IT. And it becomes more about that team that Stacey talked about earlier, solving a problem to get us to value. And it becomes less about, oh, that's what the IT team does over there, stand up and sit down and retro. It becomes more about, oh, now I understand how I can facilitate that and benefit from some of those gains that IT has made in their agile practices to benefit me, solve my problems, and deliver the value that I want to reap from a business perspective.
I think you hit on a key point there, Jacky, on focusing on concepts and terminology and their framework and their set of mind, right? So I will be completely honest, before my journey and being embedded and part of the team, I'm not sure I quite understood, what a daily scrum was or retros or any of that. But I understand in our terms, we have huddles. We have daily huddles. Our teams still get together daily as a check-in. It's just a different term, right? And we even have retrospectives, but it's probably not at the same increment. But we have peak season in the moving industry. But it's peak season in the summer. So after every peak season, we get together and we determine what went right, what went wrong, how can we do things better, right? So it's just applying those concepts and the terms that business leaders can understand, and helping them kind of, connect those dots there through learning and education.
And just to continuation, interesting thing from both Stacey, you and Jacky, right? So if I talk about some of the transformation and mainly with this last transformation, the early days with the business, the focus is a lot more on the, including the IT team, right? Is more of an output process and tools, just following the plan, right? And just, are you making my dates, right? Without looking at some of the things Quincy you say about DevOps and quality and others. So the education started is, well, what is this transformation, right? Well, in a plain English, we say, well, it's a removal and reduction of a waste. And what is waste? That is always is a heartburn for the business side, is the bottleneck. What you guys are doing on the IT side to remove bottleneck. Your handoff takes too long, right? When there is a hallway conversation happens on the business side, oh, I'm waiting on this, but this group is not doing, right? Or the ideal time, right? What really where we struggle with our early days, where idle time, where is a 2 week delivery sometimes takes 4 or 5 weeks, and business guys were scratching their hands like, I'm not getting it. You give me 2 weeks, estimate, but it's taking you 5 weeks, right? And that's where we brought them into, well, because the mindset that everyone has is more of an output. So why don't we, our transformation, honestly, we were focusing a lot more on outcome over output, and that really work out best for us, right? Our initial days a lot more focus on process and tools, rather we say, well, we have it's more about individuals and interactions, right? And that really help us. And Stacey, you call out, right, when we brought them into what is stand up, what is a backlog, what is sprint planning, and twice a week you must do grooming, and they're like, well, but you're wasting my time, 6 7 people sitting for 2 hours. But when they started realizing, oh, you know what? Now, when client asks something, we have this grooming happening, and we go back to client in a timely manner. They started seeing, some of the things. And initially, our again, some of the things why we get into this journey is we were always following the plan, and then sometimes we responding to change become, well, let me follow the plan and I respond to change. So now what happened is going to responding to the change, client is happy, they're getting their answer last faster. At the same time, we're going to try to follow the plan, because that's what happy customers, that's the end result what we are looking for. But that's all together basically it really helps us with our transformation for sure.
That's a really great point, Nir, and I'm going to jump off of that point and focus a little bit more on what I've heard each of you talk about. And it's about the goal is delivering value. And I have heard you shifting from output to outcomes. And so I want to toss a question over to you, Jacky. You were talking about identifying the quickest way to get an idea into value in the customer's hands. And I guess, can you share about what did you do in either at Fiserv or other companies to shorten that path? What are some of the approaches you've taken?
So one of the biggest things I always do, especially when it comes to the business, is that, a lot of times IT to the business is an expense or an operating cost. So a lot of times they're fixated on the IT dates and how much I'm spending. And to Nirav's, anecdote, why is it taking so long? And so what I tend to do is usually when I come in, that's a lot of what I hear about from, say, a business partner. But then I start working with them on, okay, that's great. We understand there are things that IT more than likely from your perspective needs to work on. But how about we start, drinking our own champagne? What are the things we look at? Let's start mapping what it takes for us to get things done, right? And then we can be an example to IT, because maybe, there's some synergy, there's some, ideas that we can swap. And so usually I start with their process, and we get down to very tactics, from how much time it takes from the first idea to when it gets to IT. And basically, those of you who know, we start value streaming their process, right? And they start saying, oh my goodness, it takes me 5 days, 2 weeks to get from, my idea to sign off just in my organization. And then we start, talking about things like cost of delay and how we can use different principles to reduce that waste. And then, we start kind of, as we get closer to IT, then we kind of bring IT in. We're starting to learn from the business what their bottlenecks are, and then we bring in IT as well, and then we start looking the full value stream, and then it becomes more of us as a team working together to reduce waste, to create a better flow, so that we get to that value to customers. So yeah, that's one of the techniques I've used in the past.
Well, I'm going to take another jump then. I'm going to go back over to Stacey, because you were talking about one team. And I know that, Stacey, you've shared how enlightening it has been for you to make the move from the business side and now become a really embedded member of a team that is made up of IT, technology, and the business. And I guess my question is, you've made this shift, and are there approaches that you're using to help your organization to also understand the value and the benefit of a one team mindset and helping them desire to make a similar shift?
Well, I think some of the key components, like I mentioned previously, within Agile concepts and to facilitate those shifts are already embedded in our culture. Our core values as a whole kind of illustrate a lot of that Agile mindset. Teamwork is one of our core values. Agility is one of our core values. I think the foundations are already there, and I think that people, maybe outside of IT, are starting to see it and realizing it more and more, the more that they are involved in that team, and the more that they have direct input and visibility, to it. As far as growing that at a larger scale, we've had several suggestions on, doing maybe a monthly webinar on our core values. And again, they're so in line with, Agile methods and principles, and taking that and really spreading it across the organization and really emphasizing, and again, connecting those dots, right, between those core values and actual principles and practices. And to me, I think that's probably the next logical step for us is to really help hone in and connecting those dots. We've recently kicked off some communities of practice with the help of AgileThought, right, in Quincy, where we can take people who aren't directly on the same team, and bring them together to discuss these topics and methods and ways of improving and how to embrace, these concepts, and drive home our core values.
Wonderful. And from there, so now that we understand that there's a value that's going to be achieved by working together in that way, I guess I would ask you, Nir, as you're thinking about at an enterprise, you've talked about a couple of techniques to help care for the different type of work that the teams need to work on. You talked about an 80-20 split between new functionality and enablers. And I guess, how did you negotiate that with the stakeholders, with the business owners around, hey, I want some capacity to go for this? What did that sound like?
That's an excellent question, and why I'm smiling a bit as it takes me back almost 18, 19 months as we leaders sitting and talking that what is the reason behind our transformation, and the one thing we all align is going to be one team, one goal. And at any time, it doesn't matter you are from the client success or from finance or from wherever, when you are talking to any individual, right, the mindset is going to be one team, one goal. We are all into this, right? So that really helped us. As I say, those early days, legwork that we did, that worked, lot more in our favor. But it's not that it's just that one or two meetings, right? And then the constant education happened, right? And I'm going to touch a little bit is more of a, we call the shift that we have done, more of an authoritative, indifferent culture to more of a collaborative and innovative culture. I think that indifferent is the key, because not having that understanding, right? So again, just walking through some of the key leaders, right? They who question on, well, why 20% here, right? Educating them. Again, I remember this one discussion with one of our business leaders that telling them what is tech dev, what is it included, right? And when we walk them through that, hey, part of our tech debt is our unit test coverage. Our unit test coverage is 20%. We have to take it to 80%. So some of those defect, that surprising defect that we see, it should go away, and eventually it's going to help us save that time. So multiple of those, right? We included them, what we did, and something we have done different part of our transformation is we took a route. It's called tribes and squads kind of a kickoff we did. So each of the squads or the tribe kickoff we did, so we divided our organization into 3 tribes, and each of the type has multiple squads. Is nothing but a persistent team, that what we call, right, in our true agile world. So, and this leader used to come part of all the kickoffs. So when the IT individuals are looking at it, oh wow, I have my IT leader is there, I have my business leader is there, I have my finance leader is there. So that really helped everyone understand that, what, if I'm not happy with something, I can really can talk about that, right? That indifferent, right? So what we did, I think the big success is we removed that boundary that what we had from multiple years, and that really helped us get there.
Very good.
Well, I think that is so awesome. Like, I'm hearing the level of transparency that took place, which is so key. And we're, hearing about and talking about getting to value, which I think is awesome. But it makes me ask, how do you know the value's there? How do you know things are successful? What is the measure of success? So I'm curious, when you're looking across the enterprise, how are you measuring success to know that the value that you're getting truly meets the measure that you're looking for, or the outcome that you're targeting? What does that look like? And this is open to anyone.
Yeah, I'd like to speak on that. And a big part of that is leadership engagement. And a lot of that is leadership engagement across all of these areas we're talking about. And one of the ways I found for us to, in organizations I've worked with, for us to measure the value or even know if we've gotten to those outcomes is, as leaders, to have shared outcomes, right? And to have shared values. Where you get into a lot of not understanding what the value is or the outcome is that I'm an IT leader and I have different value and outcomes than my business counterpart leader versus my HR leader versus my marketing leader. And I get it. Within each of those verticals, there are going to be specific things and goals and things that people will have that are different. But ultimately, if we have shared outcomes or a shared value of what success is, you tend to not lean on the metric so much, right? Because ultimately people think, oh, it's a metric, right? It's that, or the number of the quality of our defects going down. But ultimately, if we're talking about value, we all have to agree on what those outcomes and values are. And so shared goals is one way to get there. That's part of your transformation.
And
Back to
I'll
that
tell
one
you,
team,
at times,
right? Back to that one team, one mentality concept.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry, Quincy, go
yeah,
ahead.
that becomes a tough sell. That becomes a tough sell, at times, because leaders want numbers, right? Leaders want a number, even if the number sometimes doesn't make sense. Like, just give me a number. I just want one, so I can feel good about it.
And Quincy, on
And
that, I'll share something that just happened this week, right? And so we were in our leadership meeting when you said talking about numbers, and I think I shared prior to us, jumping into this is, well, we have multiple clients, and when we say we have a 0 production defect for our clients, right? That's the number, right? And we were all telling that how we achieved that, and we all just saying, hey, the culture shift happened, and then my CEO jumping in and it's like, well, but Nir, all that automation transformation that you have done or your team has done or as an enterprise we have done, why are you not taking credit for that? And that's actually, going back to our DevOps quality, because I can tell you 2 years ago, having that concept, our concept is, well, okay, I'm doing a testing, I'm doing development, I'm doing testing, I'm pushing something out. Now, oh, you are in a sprint. How much is your automation coverage, right? How much of your unit test coverage? So it's a completely market, and not only my IT leaders are asking for that, but my business leaders are talking the same language, right? And you say that number is one thing, but if you ask me what success that we have seen part of this transformation, completely a reactive culture to a proactive culture, right? As I say before, we used to tell, right? It's more of a, I sometimes call that, if I'm harsh a bit, it's more of an order taker to the empowerment. I don't tell them anything. They know where is my backlog. Once I'm done with it, what to grab and what to run with, right? And again, I'm going to go over and over on outcome versus output, basically, right? That is a huge, right? We are already seeing it, right? And overall, I should say that the culture shift that we have seen in last 2 years for our organization, that is a success for us because we all speaking same language that we were not speaking 2 years ago.
Culture shift. I got to hear more about that. Tell me.
Sure.
Anyone,
So,
what are you saying with
I,
that?
Sure. I think I touched base a bit, right? It's more of a authoritative, right, approach, right? When if I always give this example, when the leaders say, well, we have to build a bridge, right? And then if you are an authority, go ahead and go build a bridge, right? And you're gonna build bridge X Y Z, right? Now what we are telling is we have to build the bridge. This is what the time and material that we have. Can you guys figure it out how we're going to be building a bridge? And that's the huge shift. Before, as a leader, I have to be involved, and it's not, every time I make to micromanage things, and that really changed that. Now they're telling us that, what, this is the right way to build it, right? And by doing this, maybe it's going to cost us a little bit more or less, but this is the right way to do with the right quality. And that's the shift. Is very critical for, and that's what happened for us.
Wow.
And jumping up, my favorite phrase today is jumping off. It's just you guys have great statements, and I just have so many questions that come to mind. But it makes me think about each of you is experiencing transformations and multiple transformations throughout your careers. How do you get them to stick? You invest all this time, this education, this learning, this support. How have you found, or what have you found, what techniques or processes to actually get it to embed itself and stick and stay?
Yeah, it's that sustainability kind of question. And for me, it's always enablement, right? I am a tenured agile professional, but my job is to help, as you say, that company get that stickiness. And so a lot of it is within me, is that the agile professional to, there's a phrase that we use, to lead from the back of the room, to make sure that I'm constantly helping, the organization that I'm working with to, create those parameters where they have freedom to try out these new concepts, create that psychological safety or safety for them to run experiments that are safe to fail and for them to learn from. And again, I work in financial services. No, I'm not going to let anything be not fail, right? But until you can create that muscle and I think we all heard it, that culture shift, your culture has to sustain the change. And it's less about if we're getting to, zero defects and we're getting to, percentage of code coverage, but it's to what Nirav said. It's what everyone cares about that, right? It's less about worrying about, oh my God, a defect escaped into production. And it's more about, it doesn't matter if I'm in IT, it doesn't matter if I'm in marketing, it doesn't matter if I'm in product. I understand that automation coverage is important to us as an organization, and I'm going to do anything I can from my HR seat, right, or my marketing seat, to make sure that I'm contributing to whatever it takes to us to get to that percentage of automation, or that percentage of CASAP scores, or that percentage of number of retention, so that we don't have churn. I find it's harder to sustain when we don't have that alignment across the organization, where legal is saying, I don't care that you need me to review contracts on a quarterly basis. We only do them once a year, right? So it's sustainable when your legal department is chomping at the bit and saying, oh, I've heard you're doing this Agile thing. realized from the CEO and our leaders, in order to be sustainable, right, for us to continue to reap these rewards, I've got to figure out how can I incorporate this agile thing into, this group of lawyers, and they're coming to the table with you as a tech leader or a product leader or an HR leader to say, oh my gosh, I heard you did this agile HR thing. How do we instill that in a legal HR thing? So it's a cultural thing, right? And it's us leadership coming together. It's creating that enablement, allowing people the room to do that, and then it becomes less of the transformation agents, and it becomes the DNA of the organization.
I love that.
Yeah, that is awesome. Go ahead, Nir.
Yeah, so I think it's again interesting. It's okay to make mistakes. Please do not repeat, right? And when you hear that from leader, that 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 brings a lot more innovative ideas out. That is okay, right? I can go certain way, but I have leaders who can back us up. But another thing I'm gonna talk the sustainability, right? So we talk about how alignment at the leadership level is critical across the enterprise. But I think something the empowerment at the lower level. So as I have shared, the tribe and squad, that's the term that we use here at Brierly. But each of our squad has anchor, and anchor are nothing but the key members. So we again, as I say, the way we don't have so-called scrum master, right? But we have this anchors who can be, one of it can be a software engineers or a quality engineers. It can be a PO, right? But this person is the glue, right? Who is part of that day to day, who is not going in and out, right? And that really help us to make sure that the sustainability stays there, and they are basically eyes and ears for leaders to make sure that we get the, again, retrospective, all those things happen, but this is the live feedback you get every day as a leader. So rather than waiting 2 weeks and do retrospective, we are getting that live feedback every day, and we can able to make those changes as needed, right? So again, empowerment at the next level is as important as alignment at the leadership level for the sustainability.
So I'll tell you, Nir, you have me on the edge of, I'm pulling myself back from wanting to go into frameworks, hearing like some XP, and I'm hearing some other stuff in there, but I won't this time. We'll say that for another panel.
Sure.
But there are some things that I did hear that that I would like to see what you all think about this. So Jacky mentioned about HR, and Stacey mentioned about one team. And we've all mentioned about culture shift. So if it's one team and the team succeeds or the team fails, and we want the teams to have that psychological safety, as you mentioned, Nir, to where they feel that they can fail and obviously learn, from that failing. From a performance perspective, what do we do about individual performance across the enterprise? What strategy do we potentially use there? How do we address it? What do we even consider about that? Because if the team succeeds as one team, but their performance review is individual, yes.
I'll go with this first because it's very near and dear, and that is I keep bringing, that is another factor that I did not talk, and I'm sure I was hoping that that question gonna come. So I can take you back 2 years. We used to call our groups as a service line. Is a QA service line, is a developer service line, is this service line. I can happily say we do not have service lines anymore because we embedded, right? If it's a squad, me as a leader, my manager actually manages a squad, and squad has multiple things. Definitely what we did, we have a problem space and a solution space. So solution space is all, the developers and quality engineers and everyone else, where the problem space is our POs, right? They make sure, right? And having them separate out is important because of conflict of interest, but they're all part of this. So if part of a squad, if PO is not part of my organization, but we work together with the same respect. But service line to no service line is one of the biggest outcome that happen in our journey, and that's really helping us being together. And when performance happen, basically is under one leader's umbrella rather than going across multiple leaders.
I have a comment I'd like to make to that question as well. One of the things that we've found success with is, yes, our reviews are individual, right? And our performance, our annual performance reviews are individual, but we are actually bonused on team metrics. And so it's the collective work of the team that, you know, ultimately determines your annual bonus. And one thing that I think that we've had success with as well, within those team KPIs and bonus metrics, is if there are cross-team dependencies, we've actually put that metric on both teams. Like, say for instance, we have operations has, you know, an impact on uh, billing days. Billing days has an operation on, you know, it has an impact on all of our operational performances, and our customer service, right, to our clients, making sure we're billing timely. So it's all connected, right? It's all the same team working towards the same goal, and they are bonused accordingly. And we found
Yeah.
success with that, and it drives it home across that supply chain and, you know, across those processes.
I've actually worked at an organization who made the cultural shift and actually got rid of the individual performance review. And they moved to a system where, you know, your direct line manager usually, you know, that has a kind of level setting once a year with the other managers on the markets and where your role is and where you are at the company for kind of merit increases, but your performance is tied to objectives and key results of your whole team. So it's less emphasis on I have to have individual performative checklists in order to get a merit increase. I know merit increase isn't tied to me individually. It's tied to the market. It's tied to my organization. I know every year it's going to be reviewed, right? And so really they put emphasis on OKRs, which trickle down and are across teams, right? And they don't have that performance review overhead, right? Obviously, you have a line manager. Obviously, you know, if you're doing something that's against company policy, you're going to be thought to from an individual perspective. But performance at an individual level, you know, they got rid of that. It was no longer tied to their merit increase. And it changed the way that people worked every year to achieve those objectives and key results instead of, you know, focusing on their individual things they have to show and prove to get recognized or get a merit increase. So
Yeah, I think
another company.
I was just going to share it. It sounds like that's a great approach for helping to foster that new mindset, that new way of thinking to reinforce it. So that great idea.
Yeah, that is definitely awesome. I've only seen that a few times. I think that's an excellent point, you know, for many organizations to get to. I've only seen it a few times, but the times that I've seen it's very effective, you know, and it's rewarding for the teams, and it does definitely foster that, you know, team atmosphere. So we're winding up on our time, and I want to go around the room with our panelists. And if you could just sum up really, really briefly, a sentence or two, for those who are just starting or about to embark on their agile journey at the enterprise level, what advice would you give them? What advice would you give a friend that a peer that is in the industry and they say, hey, we're about to go down this enterprise level with Agile? What do you think we should look out for? One or two sentences. We'll start with you, Nir.
Okay. Well, I should say set the foundation right, you know, across the organization. Do not do your agile transformation in silos, otherwise you will see failure right away. Be patient, right, and learn from the mistake and try to, you know, resolve that in a timely manner rather than putting that in a backlog for some other time.
Awesome. Thanks, Nir. What about you, Jacky?
I would say take a systems approach first. Look at your system as a whole and prioritize the organizational or system impediments that need to be removed. and then tackle it from there. And, you know, it's easier said than done, but it does kind of take all of the leadership to come together. If you're going enterprise, you're looking at it across the board. But I would say from some of my failures with working with some organizations, we went straight to the team or the teams of teams level and quickly started hitting against those system problems that we all know are there, but kind of just think they're going to work out themselves. Every leader knows what those system problems are. So my advice would be, as leaders come together, talk about the elephant in the room. I keep an elephant at my desk, actually. That's my Let's talk about the elephant in the room, prioritize those, bring teams together to remove those, and that will then in turn, you know, give you the direction of where everywhere else you should go at the enterprise level.
Wow, that is awesome, Jacky. And what about you, Stacey?
I think a little bit of both what Jacky said and Nir said would apply to my take on this question. You know, embrace transparency, right? Don't be afraid to talk about what didn't go right. Celebrate the wins. You know, talk about what went well. You know, involve all pertinent parties as one unit, like we've talked about throughout all of this conversation today. You know, to create that partnership. And Jacky mentioned alignment earlier, right? Making sure that they're aligned together, lockstep towards one goal, and delivering that business value and customer value.
That is awesome. Well, thanks so much, Stacey. Thanks so much, Nir. Thanks so much, Jacky. And thanks, Andrea, my co-facilitator. We really appreciate everyone attending the summit, attending this specific session on Agile in the Enterprise. And we hope that you found value in it. We hope that you got a lot out of it. And we really look forward to having you again. There were so many good things that came forward. I hear like 5, 6 other panel sessions coming out of this. So looking forward to that. And thanks, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Quincy.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.